I was in our town in Oradea, Romania in 1998, where my family and I were living and ministering. I was a professor of theological education, and there were a group of Americans who came over to work with us, along with a group of teenagers and young adults from the Romanian setting there that were working together, and we were going out to the villages to work with orphans. And on the way to the train to leave town to go out into the villages, we walked through the center part of town. We saw 3 separate groups of short-term mission teams. Each group was around 20 people in size. And at the end of this walkway, where we walked by a group of 20 and we saw them just interacting with themselves, we then came about another 100 yards down the street and we saw another group of 20 teenagers, roughly 20, interacting only amongst themselves. And then towards the end of the street, where there's a McDonald's, which was brand new in our town, and there were a group of American teenagers coming out. This is in the middle of the summer. These 3 short-term teams came to work and be in the city. And what we noticed is that these kids were not interacting with anyone. There wasn't any dialogue, any attempt to build relationships. They were there basically to perform. And we've watched and were sensitive to judging them and being sure that we were accurate in our assessment. At the end of the trip to the train that particular day, one of the kids in the group that I was with took out a pocket calculator and he started calculating how much it would have cost for all 60 kids, plus their chaperones, to fly over to Romania. And it would have been over $100,000. A couple of the Romanian students that I was working with in that theological setting started really questioning whether or not we Americans were caring and intentional and desired for them to know Christ, or whether or not we were just on tourist trips, whether or not it was about learning and connecting. And at the end of the day, it created such a hurdle to see these short-term teams come who were unprepared, who were not focused, who lacked intentionality in their ability to build relationships, that those short-term teams, when they came into town, even though that group wasn't part of our ministry, they created such a boundary and a hurdle to us ministering to people, because Romanians know how expensive it is to fly back and forth from the States. They know it costs for gasoline to get in and out of the city where this group would have flown into. And they would have recognized that at the end of the day, this is extravagance when we are in such poverty. And so that short-term experience had a devastating impact on not only our ministry as missionaries, but as well the students that we were teaching and ministering to at the theological center that we were part of, where we really are trying to teach them that Christianity is about a life walk. It's not a tourism trip. It's not a Sunday morning event. It's a life walk. And every part of your life has to be engaged. Your finances, your relationships, the way you look and talk, and people you interact with.